And then I improv a funny intro. It's just an Aridonis podcast. I'm Aridonis. I haven't gotten a lot of sleep. I couldn't come up with anything funnier than that, but I figured the long pause would make it funny. I think it did.
I agree.
Who's that?
It is me.
Who are you?
The leader of ACPDF.
How dare you?
The dictator.
I am Pat Desmond of ACPDF, and to my left is
Oliver? Did you want me to introduce myself?
yeah,
But as dictator, that should be your job.
and to my left is Oliver Clark.
I forget my last name.
No. I just had
He's doing a bit. Let him do the bit.
I had another thought come in.
Okay.
You know when you're like talking and then you're thinking about something else and it's like, oh, I'm thinking about this now. You just kind of thoughts come over. And to my right,
That's how they do.
I have Jasper.
Hello. Jasper Wrench.
What do you want to talk about, AJ?
Address box.
I'm gonna let you go. I was talking
Conversation.
about how in previous episodes of the podcast I felt like I talked too much and I should just let the guests
But
talk,
you
and
shouldn't
I'm
just-
regretting
like,
that
you
deeply
need, like,
now.
some structure for
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Like, it's not working
I can't just let it go.
When you let me talk, it'll go every which way but forward.
Okay. You guys just sort of restarted this project after a bit of a hiatus caused by like a deadly respiratory disease, right?
Yeah.
So 2020, we recorded our album, and I sung it all a lot higher than I should have because I didn't know I would transition. And then basically it was really like a grind mindset of like, oh, we're gonna like make this record so good and like it's gonna like be like, you know, the one that like kicks off our career, blah blah blah. And I had all these plans for it, and then like when the pandemic happened, I was like, oh, I'm so glad everything's being canceled. Actually,
I wasn't ready for this at all.
yeah. There were some things that really sucked. Like we had like a U.S. tour plan, and then like we had got everyone's visas, and like we had to switch like drummers like super suddenly, and we had to like pay for that person's like stuff and everything. So we like lost thousands of dollars, like getting the van set up again, all this kind of stuff. And then like the van just sat after we had like repaired it like for $1,000 and all this kind of stuff. So that was really gnarly. But everything else was fine. I was like, oh great, we don't have to do anything. I don't have to go anywhere. Like that's kind of cool. So that was really nice and zen for a while. But I had a lot of processing to do around like musicianship and if I wanted to be a musician still. So that took up until basically now because I was not ready to come back until now. So yeah, so we kind of needed. I needed those 2 years personally.
Right.
So
Yeah, and like so we recorded music in February of 2020, and then yeah, there was like the whole mixing and mastering stage process, which happened during like the summer of 2020, I would say. And yeah, like so pretty much like we like the album was finished, and then yeah, pretty much like we because of the sort of I guess quiet hiatus we took. Yeah, like that was sort of I guess like a kind of growing period for both of us, where like we learned essentially like all right, well, like let's try some other things, you know. So
You had some solo projects that you were working on.
yeah, so pretty much there's a solo EP that I did that I put out in June of 2020, and then immediately after that I started working on now defunct side project Alleyway Saints. So I did a full-length album with that, and yeah, it's pretty much just like, all right, I don't know what to do during all this quiet time of no shows, so I'm just gonna
Make a lot of stuff.
yeah hunker down and make stuff
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. I envy that that drive because like when I was in a similar place where it was like when things were like ramping up for me toward the end of 2019, and I was like, all right, like I got some steam, let's go.
Yeah.
And and then it was like, and then I lost it all, and I was like, never again, right? Probably, yeah, this is over forever. Okay, all right, yeah. And I was just, I guess I'll just fucking play through Spider-Man PS4.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is
I got
like
super good at it.
like I'm not much of a gamer really, so like I play, you know, like every now and again. Like last night I was playing like, you know, Tony Hawk Underground, but like yeah, like so like most of my free time, like I just like you know, even if it's just making like a 4-bar loop, you know, just like I try to kind of, you know, continually just make little things to kind of like keep practice and keep learning as well, you know.
Flex the muscle.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
you know, because what else am I going to do, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what did you
What did
do?
you do, Jasper?
Before the pandemic, I was like doing music pretty much full time as like a session bassist, which was very nice. The first time in my life that was like paying the bills for
Viable.
me,
Yeah.
and then that immediately crumbled and fell apart almost 100%. So I was like, just ended up getting a bunch of weird odd jobs and doing not music related things for a while, like landscaping and English tutoring and
Yeah.
all the things that you don't want to be doing as a musician.
Mm-hmm.
And then things like slowly started to come back. I started doing some film scores, which was pretty fun. My partner is a documentary filmmaker, so
Sweet.
I got to just kind of do some more composition in ways I hadn't done before.
Right.
Especially like since I'm mainly a bassist, I got to try out like
Stuff in the treble clef.
all the other instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one score I did for a documentary about rodeo photography, and of course it needs to be like country.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just like borrowed a pedal steel and just did it 100% pedal steel score.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so I just like locked myself in my basement and just taught myself how to like passively play the pedal steel. So that's what my pandemic was like.
That's an instrument I'd like to learn how to play, I think, is a pedal steel,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
Or like a little lap steel guitar, yeah.
They're prohibitively expensive, is
Yeah.
what I've found. Like, because I've had like moments where I was just like, it's pedal steel guitar now. That's all there is.
Yeah.
You know. And then I'll go and just like research. Like I walked past like the Long and McQuaid in North Van, and there was
Yeah.
like one there used for like $2,500, and it was like,
Jeez.
and that's like a starter shitty one.
Oh my
I'm just
God.
like, and I'm the kind of person where it's like, once I get into it, next thing you know, I'm gonna have a $10,000 pedal steel.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to commit to that. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's a
But
very,
it's so cool.
it's a very beautiful instrument as a thing, you know, and like,
so unique.
I've recently been listening to this artist, was it Jim Campagnolo or something like that? And yeah, he's like this kind of like off the wall country, jazzy, jammy type guitar player. And he has a pedal steel player in his band, the kind of, you know, interactivity between him and one of the other guitarists, then of pedal steel, the kind of with the three of them.
Yeah.
It gets some like really cool kind of like textures and layering, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's cool about it. Is it's such a beautiful instrument on its own or as a layer. Like
Yeah.
it's not like, it's kind of like a violin in that sense, in that it can be the whole thing or just like a really nice piece of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So that kind of transitions nicely into a one of my questions that I try to ask everybody, which is I have this thing called like my Spotify has given up song. Which is basically when you're listening to Spotify or whatever streaming service you use, and then you get to the end of whatever playlist or album you're listening to, it'll then just try to play something based off your interests and just kind of like put you in a box and just play you. And for me, like, I don't know about you, but there's always one song that pops up at the end of like, and it's like, that's how I know it's kind of given up. And Spotify is just kind of like, yeah, here's what you like, you know. So starting maybe with Jasper, what do you think your Spotify has given up song is?
Well, I like don't use any streaming services.
Bold.
But I tried for like a couple weeks maybe with Spotify, and there was one song that kind of made me go back to not using Spotify. And it was because Kevin Morby's "Oh My God" came on literally every time I put Spotify on.
Yeah, because it like puts you in that box.
Yeah. And
that's,
I really
that's what I
don't
love
even like
and
it.
hate about Spotify is it has this sense of just like, no, I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what forced me back away from Spotify.
And is it just because you hate Kevin Morby, or is it just that song?
I feel like every one of Kevin Morby's songs is like just the same lyrics, him just saying "Oh my God" a lot. Yeah. So that's the one that ruined it.
Okay, are we allowed swearing on this podcast?
Yeah, do whatever the fuck you want.
Okay. So mine would probably be so my favorite band is Fucked Up.
Yeah.
and it would probably be Year of the Tiger.
Right.
Because it's like this like 15-minute long song that's like has a bunch of instruments, and you could tell that it was recorded live off the floor. And it, yeah, just like the chord progressions and everything in it are just like, they're very much, I don't know, like do you have like chord progressions where like you hear it and it's like something that you like immediately latch onto? Because
I guess so. I hadn't thought about it that way, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there are.
yeah, so like that has like multiple of those for me. Also, yeah, it's kind of like plays around with like, you know, the Lydian mode a lot and
Right.
whatnot, which I'm very, you know, I'm very into that. So,
So Spotify has you figured out, is what you're saying?
Apple Music, yeah.
yeah, Apple Music. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They've got to the bottom of you.
Yeah, Apple Music, I like them more because they have lossless streaming for free.
Right.
And also they pay artists a lot more than
Yeah,
Spotify does.
it's always funny when I go to look at my breakdown, and it's like I have maybe 5 listeners on Apple Music, and those 5 listeners like keep up with the Spotify payouts. You know, in like the hundreds,
Yeah.
you know, or thousands or whatever
Yeah.
it's going on that month.
Real quick aside, it's really funny how like out of all the streaming services, Napster pays artists the most.
Yeah, it's weird. That's
The irony.
Yeah, they've. I mean, well, I mean, it's not even close to the same company it was. You know, just some other investment capitalist just bought the name for the name recognition. But
Yeah.
you know, but it's funny how that turns around like that.
So I don't know what song it is, but Spotify really wants me to like Japanese breakfast.
Oh,
And I
okay.
don't think that they're a bad band, but now it's kind of like that thing where you set a sound for your alarm clock, and then you fucking hate that sound because you've had to hear it every time.
That's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
that's exactly why. Because for me, it's the song is "Inside Out" by Spoon, right? And yeah, and it's that's how I know it's about to start
Yeah.
doing its thing. And that's exactly it. Is like I know I'm at the end of the playlist because I'll start to hear that song and I'll be like, "Fuck,"
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't hate that song. I
Yeah.
don't like. I like Spoon.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like as soon as I hear the ukulele notes or whatever that start that song, I'm just like,
Yeah.
fuck off. You know.
I know, it's so funny. It's so funny because now I'm like, oh, I'm sure Japanese breakfast is great, but I will never listen to
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I haven't put on an entire Spoon album in years because of Spotify just overdoing. And before that, it was Sedona by Houndmouth, which I never liked to begin with. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was-
Yeah, I think it's also like that. Like, so yeah, the fucked up song, then also "Nights of Sidonia" by Muse, probably.
right. Yeah, that's the one where it's just like you like guitar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love Muse, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, like
Yeah.
it's definitely because it gives you like one of the most popular
Yeah.
ones. Obviously, I'm like, well, Muse's deep cuts are often better. I
Yeah.
feel like.
You're like, you want to talk to whichever agent at Apple Music is
Yeah.
in charge of you. Look, like you could go a little deeper if
Yeah.
you like. You know, you
How
don't have
dare
to-
you not play Fury?
Yeah, yeah. Why aren't you painting with broads? Why are you painting with these broad strokes like this? Yeah. So, just so people know a little bit more about what's going on with this album recently, because this is gonna come out in like 10 days or so. So, about 2 weeks ago, y'all dropped the new music video and single, "You're Not Within My Power to Change," a song that I'm learning on drums and I'm having a fucking horrible time with.
And you love it. It's
Yeah,
your
but I
favorite
love
song.
it. But I do. That's the problem. Is I was like, you asked me in what, like February to drum for this show, I think, and sent me all the material, and you were very well prepared, and I was like, all right, like, and I didn't know, I wasn't super familiar with your old band Douse. I wasn't super familiar, but I knew, it was like, oh yeah, I know they make good music. You know, I've seen them at shows and stuff. I'll, you know, it's like, it's indie music. I will look into it, you know, when I have more time. And then like a week or so before our first rehearsal, I listened to it and I was like, oh shit, this is actually really hard. I should have, you know, my ADHD was just like, you can do it when there's pressure, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was just like, I started listening to it. I was like, oh my God, I've made a horrible mistake. And I am going to look like a fool in front of these people that I think are cool.
You're doing
Oh, you
fine.
did so
You're
great,
doing good.
though.
Yeah, and then
super great.
but that was the experience at least before it. But yeah, so anyway, that was one of the songs that's got some like some cool constant like tempo changes and like or time signature changes, and but what I love about all learning all your music, you know, on sort of an in-depth level, is I love how seamless it all is for how technically sort of different it is. Like it still just feels like, you know, it feels like it just comes from like song and melody first, you know, and it's about, you know, expressing what needs to be expressed, and then all the music theory and stuff surrounding that is just supporting it. It's not the main focus of it, and it's such a difficult line to walk. You know, it's why I don't listen to bands like Muse. You know, it's because sometimes it just feels like they're just trying to be weird for the sake of it. But you know, the music walks that line so elegantly, and it's such a treat to listen to. And then to sit in and like try to learn it all, you know, it could be frustrating, but at the same time, it's like at the I know at the core of it is there's like a song, and it's like you can feel the vocals leading it, which is so important. But anyway, do you want to talk a little bit more about that song and kind of what the vibe is? And here's the video. It seems to have been a very important focus for you in particular.
Well, I appreciate you saying all that, first of all. I mean, the video, it was so funny because I had just been like, so I don't know if you know I don't remember the name of it now. I keep thinking Viva La Vida, but it's not it. But it's the Christina the Queen's EP that she put out, like, I guess it must have been 2019 or something, and she dances in like all her videos, and she's so cool, and she's kind of like gender variant, and she did this one thing that basically like was like the span of her EP, and it was like a 20-minute video, and it kind of like each song there's like a piece of it that has a choreography to it, and like it all takes place like in this venue in Paris, and it's the opening sequence. She's like on the roof, and she does all this like really expressive stuff, and I was like, that's so sick. I want to try that. Yeah. And then I did. That was like, I've never danced in my life, but I'll just do it, whatever. And then and I just literally like posted on Facebook being like, does anyone know a choreographer? And then I got connected with this guy named Marco, and he's amazing. He's a lovely person, and we started kind of going over how to dance, and then the pandemic shut everything down, and then I just learned it all on Zoom, and it was super weird. He would like have his camera out like on his balcony, and he's like putting it down by his feet, like, this is what you're doing with your legs, and just show me the legs. I was like, okay, and then like he'd bring it back up, like, this is what your arms, and it was like really
so chaotic.
It was so hard. It was like the hardest way to learn how to dance for someone who's never danced in their life, and so it was really funny. But yeah, I don't know. I was like, that just seems like something I want to do for this video, and we figured out. He like made all the choreography, and we kind of adjusted it to like what it felt more natural to do. And then Haley Gray, who directed it, she is amazing, and she, her and I had wanted to work together for a long time, and so this kind of ended up working out. So she just kind of like executed all the stuff, and we just shot it in her apartment, and then we went outside, and yeah, it was super great. So
and it's something you kind of stuck with as well, because I know you're still like doing like dance classes and stuff now.
Well, I stopped because I was pretty dysphoric about the tops, like pre-top surgery, and so then like dancing felt weird because you have to really like Marco would always be like, open up your chest, and I was like, that's exactly what I do not want to do. Like I do not want to like bring attention to this area.
Right.
And so I stopped, and then after I had top surgery, I like slowly started coming back to it. So I've only been doing it for like the past 3-4 months.
Right.
Properly, but that was the first time I'd ever danced. Was like for this video.
Yeah.
So it's like still very new to me.
I mean, it's cool that you could just kind of like be like, this is how I want to do this, and then just like go whole ham into it. Like I love seeing things like that.
I did commit, yeah.
As somebody who was just like laying in bed one day and went, man, I wish I had a loft bed, and then built a loft bed. I can respect the hustle.
Yeah, totally. It's nice to be like, oh, I could just do that.
Yeah. There's very little stopping me from doing this.
Yeah, it's really just your own mindset for a lot of things. So yeah, and we've had a lot of good feedback, so I've been really appreciative of that.
I mean, it's a great video, so yeah.
Really. It's really weird being like, oh, it's like clearly like a very newbie person trying to dance, but I think people have appreciated that it's very vulnerable to do that. So that's really nice.
Well, and it's a very vulnerable song as well, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't think about that so much. I guess with the lyrics, and then people are like, "That's really personal." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess it was."
Well, yeah. Well, that's what it seems to be. Is like a lot of how you write seems to be just sort of this effortless expression. You know, that doesn't seem like you're like it. I have to dig quite a bit to write that vulnerably, and it seems like it just sort of happens for you.
Yeah, well, I was joking with my friend. I was like, I'm just like, here's my therapy session.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting because like the lyrics would have been written also like a couple of years before the video was even shot.
Yeah.
So like, you know, it's not like just a, you know, I'm gonna write about a recent event. You know, it's kind of.
Well, you know what? I kind of realized in retrospect, like that the Douse record and then this, well, not this record so much, but like that song. I was always like, why does it always feel like there's like some like in my subconscious some like enemy that I'm fighting? And then later on, after everything happened with our band, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense in retrospect.
Yeah.
My subconscious kind of knew, but I didn't know what was happening at the time. So it was really weird to kind of see that and be like, oh, actually, I did know what was happening, and I did know that I was being mistreated, but I just didn't recognize it.
Crazy.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I put it in lyrics, like, lol,
Yeah.
like, so it was
Weird
pretty
how your
weird.
gut
And
knows.
Yes.
what better kind of music to fit with that than post-punk type stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I think, like, at the time, you know, I was definitely listening to, like, a lot of post-punk. So, yeah, like, that's where, like, a lot of that influence kind of came from with the song. And, like,
You feel it in the guitar modulation.
yeah. And then, like time signature-wise, I mean, like, I think that's just always been, you know, one of our, I guess, elements. Is just, like, you know, 4/4 is fun, but, you know, there's like so much more expression you can do with like different types of things. But at the same time, you know, like I like that's one thing that kind of like bugs me a lot with like a lot of like math rock bands is that they'll do the time signature stuff, but there's no like groove there, and there's
Yeah, exactly.
there's no pulse, you
Yeah.
know. And I guess like growing up listening to, you know, like Rush and Genesis and stuff like that, those are kind of more prog bands that they like they're able to keep a groove kind of in there, like keep a feel in there. So, you know, the less that you notice that an odd time signature is happening, the better. Because
Yeah.
like, you know, like you look at like All You Need Is Love by the Beatles, for instance, that's in 10.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't think about that because it's just set, like the melody and whatnot is just so,
Driving.
yeah, so
Control.
driving and iconic, you know. And
Yeah.
so I think, you know, with the whole time signature elements, that's always been my goal, is kind of like, although the funny thing is, yeah, like, you know, that riff was originally written in 4/4, then you're like, oh, why are we doing 7? And I'm like, okay. But I want these last two measures to be 4 anyway.
I love how it feels like it seems to like control the tension in a really strange way.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing it in 7, it's got this like it just it feels kind of uneasy, you know, but not in a way where like you say, like that disturbs the groove. It's just like it's still driving along and it's still grooving and it's still like flowing naturally, but you're just like you've got one eyebrow
Yeah.
up, you're just kind of like this, you know.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's one of the things I think is forgotten a lot with modern songwriting is because like looking at like music of the past, or like, you know, there's music right now that does it, but like using like music theory knowledge and whatnot to not using it to flex, but using it to tell stories.
Yeah.
And like the kind of like the amount of storytelling that you can do instrumentally, like a lot of people don't realize, you know. So that's one of the things I think about a lot when I write is like, you know, why am I going to this place? Why am I using this chord? You know, it's kind of like, you know, like where am I leading? Where is it going? And yeah. So I think like musically that was kind of, you know, why that song and the record that it's on is kind of, you know, that's why it's written the kind of way it is. It's like there's just a lot of room for storytelling with music, and then once you put like, you know, fantastic lyrics with that,
Yeah.
you know, you kind of get a nice peach pie.
You got a stew going.
Yeah,
You know?
you got a good stew.
Yeah, that's so mature. that's such a mature interpretation of how that is, because it's like, yeah, very seldom do you hear people asking why when they're writing stuff, you know, and it's a very important sort of mindfulness exercise when you're doing any kind of creative process. When you start doing something, to kind of back up a bit, sometimes you got to be in the flow of it and just do it, you know, just to get the idea out. But there's other times where you got to just be like, wait, why? You know, like,
Well,
what does this say?
But the thing is, if you do it enough, then it just becomes intuition. So
Yeah.
that when you do it off the flow like that, that's not a phrase, but I'm going to use it anyway. When
Yeah.
you do it like that, then, you know, it just becomes natural to kind of like thinking about where you're going, and like it becomes, free flow like that. Yeah.
But it's also nice that like, when you send me like a composition you've written, I can be like, this sounds like too much, or this sounds like okay, and then we can kind of collaborate too, right? Because I feel like if it was just like, I mean, I don't know, all the stuff you write by yourself is really good too.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to kind of be like, oh, I think that like if we want to tell a certain story or like have a certain mood, then maybe this certain thing should change.
Absolutely, yeah. Like that's
too.
why, like, collaboration is a very nice thing when writing, is because sometimes you get stuck in your own head too much, and so when you have like another great musician, like, being like, oh, well, like, what if you did this instead? That's a more learning opportunity,
I feel like that's so much more my forte now than like writing something from scratch. Like when you're just like, I wrote a whole song, like dope, I'll put lyrics over it, but we should change these things or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's so nice.
You're a really good editor.
You've kind of, and also because you two have been writing together for how long, you think?
Like 8 or 9 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you've kind of.
I mean, we started playing together 9 years, but I think writing together.
It was like hard to figure out for a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because like, you kind of have to drop any egos,
Well, yeah, for
obviously.
sure. Yeah, and you have to get to know each other and be vulnerable in that sense of like,
Yeah.
it's tough to share that stuff, But it's because of that you've got this really cool sort of identity as writing as a pair almost that's formed over such a time that it's like it's unique to each of your own writing styles is how it comes together, the
Yeah.
sum of its parts.
I
Right?
mean, we're basically the modern Lennon McCartney.
Yeah. See you outside for a fist fight, That's that's a bold statement, and I respect it. Yeah.
Patrick loves that kind of stuff, though.
Yeah.
He's like, it's so hard that we're like the best band ever. Like,
Yeah.
all the time, stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's very cute.
But I mean, yeah, because it's like
privilege.
Well, I mean, yeah, like it's I used to be very self-deprecating, then I realized like how negative that can impact things. So it's just like, what if I'm just like way too confident?
It's fun to be facetious.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's
cute.
that's like my whole personality is, like it's amazing what kind of reaction you get out of people. Like if I'm working an event or doing like being like a sound guy or even just like hired to come in and just like play guitars on something and you do a good job and they go like, wow, this has been amazing, thank you. And then I just go, yeah, I'm very good at this.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's one of the
This is why you hire me.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm the best,
Yeah.
or when you fix a problem, I'll be the first one to say, "Wow, I'm the fucking best." at this."
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
it feels great,
Yeah.
and then it just reinforces your own, I find that since I started being that way, like as a joke, like, and that's the best way to start doing anything is to start doing it as a joke.
Yeah.
But when I started acting that way, just kind of as a sort of an antidote to being self-deprecating all the time, and then it's like, oh man, it's so much harder to get depressed.
Yeah. I mean, like, besides medicine, laughter is the best medicine. so,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, lost my train of thought just now.
How do you feel playing our bass parts, John?
Yeah.
We even got your take on being one of the session players.
Yeah.
I think it's a very nice shift from a lot of the like bass stuff I've done with other people. I feel like most of the session work I've done is like people have a song that's like very bare bones and they're like, play something to it. And then I like, come up with something so I'm kind of like there for some of the writing process. Whereas playing with you two, it's like I am there after the song is like complete and finished and I'm playing parts, and it's like a really nice way to flex a different musical muscle for me. And it's I found it very challenging at first, and now it's like it's just very nice to be able to access that different musical side of my brain. Like
That being said, though, I would like to bring in more improvisational aspects with our stuff, so that because I feel like I used to be very domineering with session musicians, unfortunately. So I think I would like to
Pain of being the best. Yeah.
I mean, I would
you want.
no. I'll have like a full idea of the song in my head
Yeah,
and
of
what it
course.
should sound like.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's when you hear musicians' personalities come through their playing, I think that's like one of the most amazing things. So I mean, with improvising, that's that's something that can that's a tool to help that come out,
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think maybe in 5 years' time we'll just be a jam band or something.
Oh God! I hope we are never a jam band. Sorry, don't want to be a jam band. It's over if that happens.
It's a simple no for me.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
Unadorned,
Yeah.
no kind of fancy orchestration, just no.
You mean you don't like Eric Clapton?
Anyway, to Jasper's point,
Yeah.
I felt the same way playing in Joe Pass. I was like, oh, this is so different from what I would normally play, and it was like really nice learning experience. So I'm glad to hear it's been similar for you.
Yeah.
I didn't think you found it hard though. I'm surprised to hear that because Sam was like, oh, I'm so glad that Jasper's playing with you because my stuff is so simple and Jasper's always trying to write cool stuff, and I'm like, no, can you just play like the bass notes, like like just like follow the chords? So
True. I mean, I feel like compared to a lot of the music that I have played before, like I was definitely like with Sam Tudor, who's somebody I play with a lot, and I definitely was playing a lot more like on the folky indie like tiny bit of jazzy stuff in there, but like nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy to like improv parts for that and be like,
okay.
oh, I can just like, throw in, crazy syncopations like no problem into this 4-chord 4/4 song.
Yeah.
I can just like,
Yeah.
do whatever I want and don't really have to
I've
think
got all
about
the
it.
spice I need for
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even like some of the bass parts, even though they are like simple in some of the songs, you still have to be like thinking about it in a different way. You're not just like autopilot, let your fingers like explore.
Right.
You're kind of like, oh, I know that there's something coming up here, but it's in like 7.5 beats.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, it's tough to, I feel the same way. I've got
Yeah.
I've got to really, and it excites a different part of your brain because you got to really know what you're doing in order to elevate it, to and like add your own stuff onto it, because it's like yeah, I could just start fucking throwing fills out there, but it's like when I've only got 3.5 beats to fit in there, it's like all my normal vocabulary isn't applicable, so I've got to really know what's coming up, and it's a nice way to to just level up as a musician, really, is just by sitting down and like trying to really learn somebody else's stuff,
Yeah, I feel like it's like a different kind of like presence you need to have in music.
Yeah, you gotta activate like the like mindfulness of what's going on in the moment a lot more.
Yeah, like full improv, you're definitely like present in it, but you're kind of like letting it
It's
letting
like an
it shape
autopilot
how
thing.
you're doing it. But this, it's like I am being shaped by this music in a very nice way.
Yeah.
It's like
I am not within my power to change.
exactly.
Shout out to Sam Tudor though, by the way. He's like the best songwriter in the world right now. So I mean, like, yeah, shout out to him.
oh, besides us, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
we've got
Oh
conversation.
no, I'll fully say that Sam is the best. 'Cause, he's genius.
It's like being the richest man in the world. It fluctuates on a moment to moment basis.
Yeah,
depending on
exactly,
who's making something.
It's usually like either Sam Tudor or Devours. So they're
Yeah.
kind of like neck and neck,
Yeah. In the Vancouver situation. That
Yeah.
said, though, big ol' show coming up in
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks at Redgate. And
Yeah, Sylvia Platter's album release.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I mean, Sylvia Platter's, they're like one of the best bands from like Langley area, and
Yeah.
just like everyone knows that,
Yeah.
So like, they're fantastic. Primp is playing. Primp is awesome.
Yeah.
Lowercase Dream is opening.
It's okay.
It's all right.
Yeah.
No.
Stick to
I
the
love it. Kira's great. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a really, I feel really glad that, the first ACPDF show has this lineup,
Right? Yeah. No, I like when you asked me to play it. It was like Sylvia Platter's album release, and I produced an album for an EP for Sylvia Platter's a few years ago. I played in a band with Kier for 5-6 years, and I don't know Print very well, but it's funny how it's all like, it's like I was talking with Nick last week from Sylvia Platter's, and it's like it's this nice little vertical slice of like the like Fraser Valley 2015 era like bands, and it's such like a niche sound. And we were just talking about how it's like this it's like Monsters of Folk situation for those for like what's left of those bands, and they've all migrated into Vancouver, and it's like it's very strange. Very strange how things wrap around that way. And I was even talking to, like, we've talked about this before, about how we've kind of we're nearing the edge, like, we're hitting that like that almost 30, early 30s area of just like you're the sort of the elders of the music community kind of place, and it's like we're not there yet, but we're entering it, and you're starting to see like the
my back feels like it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like I can feel it in my lower back and in my like just general disdain.
But your attitude.
And it's like, man, I wish I had more to offer all these sort of younger people that are starting up, because I'm it's like I do, but I'm also on the same level still, and it's interesting talking to Nick now, because Nick's even a little older than we are, and Nick's been doing it a little bit longer than we have. Nick and Tim from Sylvia Platters they're brothers that have been writing together for like a decade, in this band, and then they've now got what's his name? Their new bass player. It was Stephen Carl O'Shea.
Right.
who's now playing bass for Sylvia Platters. He's from even that same music scene, but just like a decade kind of earlier.
Yeah.
And it's just weird how it's like multi-generational in this, and you can see like the different, I don't know, it's just very interesting. I mean, I'm sure it's like this everywhere, but in my experience in the Vancouver music scene is just seeing all these sort of bubbles of different decades. And I ran a studio for a long time with a friend who's like kind of a Gen X dude who like came up in the indie scene, kind of up until like 2008, and he was like playing slots with like Japan Droids and Pac AD, and they were like opening for him and like Dan Mangan and dudes like that, like in that time period, and it's just like, and now it's just like they're just dudes, and it's like, and then near the end of it, I started seeing, people like your band, and I would play big gigs with like your band, and now it's just like the baton has been passed, and I'm a dad now. It's just very strange how time goes that way, and you don't really realize it until you're like right in the middle of it, and you have something to look back at and forward to. And it's a perspective that is becoming more real to me.
Yeah, I remember going to, actually no, it was the show that I played at Redgate back in November. I remember, just like my roommate telling me, he was like a year older than me, he's just like, well, I feel very, very old compared to everyone else here. Because like it was like a fairly young lineup. Like I was by far the oldest person in the lineup,
Right.
But yeah, like, so like it was definitely, but it's cool though, kind of like seeing, the newer people kind of coming in, and, learning from all of our mistakes.
And it's weird how I'm sure at the time we would complain about how there was nowhere to play, and there was like there's nothing going on, and all the promoters suck, and then I still feel all those same things, but
some things change, some things stay the same.
It's like I'm like, is there less opportunity or more opportunity, or and I'm trying to like, I guess do the calculus of how the scene has evolved, or if it has evolved, and what it all means. I don't know. Do you all have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I was hanging out with Joe from Joe Pass the other day.
Yeah.
And we were kind of like talking about that because we were kind of like passing Redgate, where the show is out on June 25th.
Yes.
Tickets are available now.
Yeah.
We were passing by Redgate, and I was just like realizing, it's like, wait, I feel like Redgate is like the only all ages venue left, pretty much. It's like them and like I guess Bullet Farm,
Yeah.
I don't know if SBC is all ages or not, but
I'm
like,
not sure.
like it's just, but like Bullet Farm's like an underground venue where it's like ask a punk for address,
Yeah.
So like Redgate, it's like the only spot left, pretty much, for all ages shows.
Yeah. That'll freely advertise,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how, it's like, and that's kind of what grows a music scene is, the involvement of the people that are not supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's nice that Redgate has become like more of a community hub than before. But yeah, when I think about like when we first started playing shows, like all those venues are gone.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
And
don't
new
know.
ones have come and gone in that time as
Yeah.
well. I mean, and obviously the pandemic is like the big asterisk that goes on every conversation. It's like, yeah, oh yeah, and then there was a once in a lifetime, economic shift that we've never seen the likes of except for 10 years before that, and blah blah blah. But the so it's like I'm curious to see if and how things get better or worse, because there's all this investment that comes in from the government, right, to try and prop up arts and music and stuff like that. But it goes to, like, I know the people that get a lot of that funding, and they do definitely deserve it. But it feels like there's these huge gaps being left by all these millions and millions of dollars that are being brought in, and it's it's just kind of there's a lot. It's leaving a lot of holes for a lot of people to fall through, a lot of cracks, and it's frustrating sometimes.
I think with Vancouver, like, we definitely have the artists for it, you know. We definitely have, like, there's people that want to go to shows, that want to go to, events and whatnot, especially, after, well, I mean, we're still in the pandemic, but, like, after mandates, like, open up and whatnot. Like, we have the people for that. It's just, that's when, I guess, like, real estate kind of comes in, and it's like we have the people, but the facilities to do it is a lot more limited because of, I mean, Vancouver real estate is kind of...
It's Vancouver real estate, and then it's like, it's liquor laws, and then it's, there's a lot of these sort of preventative walls around us having a really, like, thriving, productive thing going on, and then there's these outside forces that want to fund certain types of things, and it's not always, working out in ways that really grow the industry. It just kind of ends up going to, it's like, oh great, I have the funds now to go to a mid to high level studio that was getting plenty of work beforehand anyway, rather than working with a new up and coming producer, I have the funds now to book a music festival that'll be a one time thing and is over. It's just like, it'd be really cool to see some sort of an investment in kind of changing the nature of how we all approach this, because we're all just kind of doing the same thing and that we've always done,
Yeah, well, I mean, Vancouver has always been a kind of, like, off in its own kind of territory, It's very rare for, Vancouver artists to kind of break out of Vancouver.
No, it's true.
Like,
it's
unless if they are constantly touring,
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, I've always said that, like, in order to be a big Canadian artist, you have to be a big American artist.
Yeah,
And then Canadians will be like, they're from here, they're ours.
Yeah. It's or you just have to be a millionaire, and just like go back and forth between Vancouver and Toronto until you've, got a snowball rolling.
Yeah. Have like, if you have, like, white rock parents or something like that.
Yeah,
it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, or just like even just a place to crash helps a lot. It's frustrating, but it's such a, I don't know, it's an interesting thought experiment to think about, like, what very simple things prevent us from having very different lives.
Well, this is why I was like, I'm so arm's length from music now, because I can't. Like,
Right.
I can't do this lifestyle anymore. I can't, like, invest in something that isn't investing in me.
Yeah.
And, like, that was kind of why coming back to music was so weird, because I was like, okay, like, if I come back to music, what do I actually want? And I was like, okay, I want to play shows and, like, see my friends.
and have fun.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, like, what does that look like? It means playing, like, a local show now and then, and, like, maybe that's it. And maybe that is all I want to do. And maybe I do just want my friends to hear my music, and that's enough, you
Right.
know? And, like, maybe it doesn't have to get really successful. Maybe it doesn't need to get a lot of press.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to be in that headspace and be like, I don't need to be, like, renowned to enjoy music.
Right.
So,
It's this strange ladder that you climb, where it's like those things become so intertwined, because it's like, oh, I want to play more shows, but I need more money, so I need to play bigger shows, so I need more people to be interested in it, and it's like, like they intertwine in this really, and then it gets to the point where you've sort of lost sight of it, and you're on this cycle of just like, oh fuck, I am I'm not doing well enough, and it's like not doing well enough to do the thing I just wanted to do for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
like,
crazy.
Yeah, like my last tour was with Joe Past, and I was very grateful to be on that tour, but I was so miserable because of my own personal stuff I was going through, and I was like, why am I doing this then? Like I'm on like this dream tour opening for this bigger band, and like we're doing all these East Coast shows in places I've never been, and I'm like, but I'm so sad. And so it's like, well then what's the point? Like, I'm doing this thing that's supposed to get you successful, but if you're not enjoying it, it's like, well, like, and
Pourquoi?
so it's so, So I don't know, just that. I mean, I love Joe and I love that band, but it was just so funny to be like, oh, like, is this actually making me happy? Is this fulfilling? Because the whole thing is, oh, you're going to be fulfilled once you achieve this thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that fulfillment doesn't necessarily come.
It's like playing a mobile game. You know what I mean? You're just like, if only I had more gems.
Yeah.
Then I could enjoy the game if I had more gems.
Yeah.
And then you continue to get gems, or World of Warcraft or whatever. It's a grind, and it sucks.
Yeah, and it's like celebrities talk about it. They're like, oh, I have 1 million followers, but like, oh, but I don't have 2 million. And it's like, man, it's like insane. Like it just never is going to be enough, because it's not about like other people validating you. It's about you validating yourself. And so it's like, it's such a weird thing to be like, what actually makes you happy? And like, maybe it is when you strip everything away that you just want to have fun with your friends. And like, that's so funny, to think about and be like, it's so ironic that we all try so hard to get really successful, but ultimately maybe that's not what you want.
Yeah, once you kind of decapitalize, your values, and go like, well, hold on, why am I doing this? And I guess that's a nice little theme that's popped up both in the songwriting and in the playing of the songs is just like, you really got to stop and go, why, and if you have a like good solid answer to that, then it becomes a lot easier to make decisions about like, do I even want to play shows? Do I just want to be somebody that just releases an EP on SoundCloud every year, or every week or whatever, or do I just want to fucking do I want to go on tour? Do I really get something out of that? And once you know the answers to why, and you have to try all those things to really get that, right? And that's the other thing that comes from having a little bit of experience in what we do. But it's such a it's so cool to start to see the perspective, and then once you stop participating in all of the bullshit that you get caught up in, especially when you're in like your early 20s, and you've also got like external pressure from your parents to be like, I gotta prove to them that I can even fucking do this, and I didn't just like waste a lot of this.
A good realization I had, I think it was on when I was on tour with Youth Fountain, was like when I was like depressed on the road, I was like, well, like, let's take a step back. Think about like what your 13-year-old self would think about you now. Yeah. They would be like, holy shit, you're on tour, you're in this band, that's awesome. And like, I guess kind of taking comfort in just that kind of simple aspect, rather than always like looking at like, oh, why aren't things better? Like, oh, this
I want to eat more Subway.
I don't want to eat more Subway. I don't want like, or in the States, I don't want to eat more Taco Bell. But like, you kind of just think about like, oh man, like your 13-year-old self would be like, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like if it doesn't please your inner child, it's like, what's the point? Like we're all just fucking 10-year-olds that just suddenly have disposable income and places to put it. That's at the end of the day, that's all any of us are. Well, speaking of having fun with your friends, we now have to go and practice these songs so that we can play this show and do a good job for our friends with our friends. So this has been a really nice cathartic speaking session with y'all, and I appreciate you coming in early at the crack of noon to record this podcast.
Well, I mean, like, thanks for having us. I mean, this, like, being on this podcast has been a dream of mine for like so long now that it's sick to finally be able to do it.
Thanks, AJ.
Close us out, Jasper.
I was driving yesterday and pulled up to a red light, and a car pulled up next to me, and it was the guy who gave me my forklift license like 3 or 4 years ago, and he said, Jasper, I gave you a forklift license.
Well, you're forklift certified?
I was, and then I never used it.
Oh.
And, so people are around you?
Your life is like so fake sounding sometimes.
I was working for Vancouver Bike Share, and they decided to pay for my forklift certification, and then I quit a week after I got it.
That's a
I
good.
never used it.
It's a good skill to have, though. Being forklift certified.
Yeah.
It's a very attractive skill.
The number of times where I've been like, I've had the opportunity to use a forklift
Yeah.
and just haven't been able to because I'm not properly licensed
Oh man.
has, like, if I had a nickel, you know?
Yeah, I dream one day of being forklift certified.
It's there's like, for me it's like play like a nice headlining sold out slot at like the Commodore or something, and then like maybe like the Hollywood Bowl,
Yeah.
and then there's like being forklift certified.
Yeah, it's
Well, I know a guy.
Yeah. And it's humbling to know that I'll never achieve it.
yeah. It's, I mean, only the best of the best really
Yeah.
can be forklift certified.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So,